Hello, everybody. Hello, welcome to Visual Communication and Media. My name is Adam Rosetsky. It's a pleasure to see each and every one of you. I'm so excited to have y'all here today. Really excited. Reached. That's not good to start that off with. So we've reached almost the halfway point. At least the third mark, where 2 weeks are done and we've started into week 3. And last week we talked about the first response type that we try to design into visuals, which is sensory responses. This week we're actually going to talk about perception and really get into visuals that kind of trigger a person's cognitive memories or their perceptual thoughts based on some of their cultures. We're going to get into a lot of that, and there's really good discussions with that as well. So just to let everybody know, lectures are back on Tuesday, same time as always, 8 o'clock Eastern, 7 o'clock Central, and that's when lectures will usually be, Tuesday from here on out, so just like normal. So thank you for dealing with the crazy week last week. Apologize for all that stuff. Everything should be caught up and everything. So if you have any questions about anything that goes on, let me know. I got you back. Other than that, let's get into what we're talking about. So let's do it. There we go. Much better. So this week we're going to talk about a lot about cultures and understanding different perception points and how we see a lot of different things. And it's really going to come down to cultural diversity. And we're also going to take a look into culture codes and really get into a lot of different perception aspects of cognitive memories. But we'll talk a little bit more about that during the lecture. But I figured we'd start off a little bit of a headway into cultures and how diversity of cultures is really important. And understanding culture is important to relay visual messages to any number of different groups of people easily without confusion or offending those certain groups. And cultures are really broken down into 4 main aspects. Origins, social, religious, and family. And I'm not talking about origin is like where you're from. Social is who you hang out with, what activities you play. Religious is what type of religion you're focused on. And family, of course, family cultures. I always kind of find it funny, like, different versions of like stuffing and how it is like at Thanksgiving. You can have different, like, that's like family specific, that's like mother specific, like cultures. So, and that's another thing. We're also going to talk about semiotics and the study of signs as well this week. But let's get into cultural perception. Let's get into that first. So a little heads into cultural perception. The funny aspect about it is we kind of can get into it, and we'll review this during lecture, but cultures are kind of split into these things known as culture codes. And it was developed by a theorist known as Clotaire Rapaille, meant to understand the type of culture and unique culture features encoded in some form of identification or information to identify that culture. And that's really crucial because these codes are cultural interpretations of what we see that each person learns from birth. And it's rare to notice these codes. These are things that we just learn as we grow up. And as kids, we don't question it. We're kind of sponges, but we see adults, older generation children do these things, and we try to imitate or inherit what we think is right based on our social cultures. And that's pretty important. And this is based off of 4 different culture codes, much like the main 4 cultures that we tend to see what we talked about last slide. But they kind of Rapaille's culture codes very similarly are equal to what we've talked about, and they are cultural and social perspective, which is like who they hang out with, a specific geographical country perspective, where they're from, a location perspective, where they're exactly at, for example, like what country, and then also what city they're from or what like home area, and then a family perspective. So those 4 things right there. And culture codes are used in visual communication and become culturally familiar with us, which in turn can be used strategically to connect with us. All good things right there. Yeah, culture codes are huge. We kind of just like take them on with birth, and that's or take them on as we learn from our parents a lot of times. So now it's also important to understand these culture codes and how like different cultures develop their own personalities and everything. And as businesses, this is really important that as we develop visuals for say big companies or companies that do business overseas, they have to build visuals that make sense to those cultures and to those audiences. So business need to emotionally connect with those potential and client supporters all the time, and by using culturally familiar visuals, which is one of the aspects of perceptual communication, along with semiotics and also cognitive memories, using culturally familiar visuals will heighten the emotional and cognitive engagement of viewers. And it's important to remember that these visual elements are culturally familiar to many different cultures. Many, many, many. So that's pretty much it. Oops, actually, I messed up a little bit. Sorry. Hang on a sec. I love how the button kind of just doesn't go anywhere you need it to. So yes, so let's use the example of these two pictures right here. For example, these are Latin American uh, different advertisements. Well, one is for Mexico and one is for Argentina. And Argentina just focuses on Christmas. It's more focused on the words and the deer itself. But Saint Nicholas or Santa Claus in Mexican culture is like one of their favorite aspects about Christmas, so that's why he's centered more on theirs and the way it's split up with how it's written right here, and it's more centralized. I'll focus on Santa rather than the deer itself and the overall Christmas aspect. So there we go. Yeah, I've just been messing up a lot ever since the kid's been born. So I apologize if I made a mistake or two recently. But yeah, that's pretty much it. Just the start of this week. Just to give everybody a heads up. Again, we have lecture on Tuesday, plus your initial post for your discussions due on Tuesday as well. Do keep that in mind. Other than that, that's all I got. So be safe, have fun, enjoy. I'll see everybody later this week. Have a great one. Bye bye.